France 24. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're looking at Turkey's next move after that shelling across the border from Syria, which sparked retaliation yesterday and early this morning, as well as a measure in Parliament giving the green light for more force if necessary. With us to talk about it, he's one of the ruling AK party's leading point men on foreign policy, Suat Kılıçdaroğlu. Thank you for joining us again. From Ankara, from Beirut, The Guardian's Martin Chulov is with us. Anton Kozlov of the American Graduate School of Paris, and from Stockholm, Kamal Labwani, a former Amnesty International prisoner of conscience, longtime Syrian activist. Welcome back to all of you. As we were mentioning in part one, Damascus apologizing through the United Nations, but earlier in the day, the Syrian information minister also pointing the finger elsewhere.
In the case of border incidents, the countries involved should be wise and responsible, especially when there are terrorist groups active in the border area.
Meanwhile, over in New York, Russian objections to a draft UN statement condemning Syria's shelling of Turkey sent the Security Council back into consultations this Thursday. Earlier in the day, the Russian foreign minister was speaking in the company of his Pakistani counterpart.
The conflict in Syria took on a cross-border dimension a long time ago. The conflict is spilling over, but it is being fueled from the outside.
Suat Kılıçdaroğlu, do you think that statement is directed at Turkey?
Well, I don't know what the intentions are, but one thing is for sure: Russia and China are on the wrong side of history, and they are not with the gist of times. I think the Arab awakening is not, as some fear and feel, an outside intervention or a geopolitical remake in the name of democracy and human rights. It's a genuine, authentic movement springing up throughout the region. We believe Syria and Syrians deserve a more transparent and normal governance order. They deserve a government and regime that doesn't bomb its cities, that doesn't kill its citizens. And despite its branding them as terrorists for more than 18 months, these people have been fighting under the most the most disadvantaged conditions against a brutal regime. Turkey will continue to be with the side of the Syrian people. We made it very clear from the very beginning: if there's a choice between the Syrian regime and the Syrian people, regardless of the good relations that the country has enjoyed, Prime Minister Erdogan made it clear that we will be with the Syrian people. We will continue to help them. We are somewhat frustrated with the lack of support and assistance, the diplomatic initiatives that we would expect from our friends and allies.
Let me ask you about that, Suat Kılıçdaroğlu. We have a question on Twitter from Arun. He says, if a NATO member is attacked, are all members required to respond if called upon? If I understand correctly, there's what's called Article 5, where that can be evoked. Yes. Do you think that Turkey will evoke that article and ask its NATO allies to intervene?
No, we have not. Both in July, when our airplane was shut down, and also yesterday, after the shelling, Turkey invoked Article 4, which is a consultation mechanism. We also understand that within NATO there is some reluctance to have NATO involved in Syria. So Turkey has no intention to involve NATO at this point. That said, if the situation deteriorates, if Turkey feels that the spillover of the security vacuum in Syria becomes a much higher and more comprehensive threat against Turkish territory and Turkish citizens, I don't rule it out.
All right.
But what Turkey is after is a legitimate transition in Syria, be it come through regional mechanisms or through external mechanisms such as the United States, the Security Council, or NATO.
All right, and some of the other reactions we can show you now on Facebook and Twitter. John Patrick Stanley says, Article 5 incoming. Don says they should not attack. I personally do not want another Libya. On Facebook, Stephanie says, the Atlantic Alliance as a whole would not move without a UN Security Council resolution, which is highly unlikely without Russian support. So you have to ask, if Turkey asked for an Article 5 vote, would NATO members stick to its allies, or would it bow out in front of Russia? Well, let's look at some of those Western reactions. The French Foreign Ministry putting out a strongly worded statement this Thursday in support of Turkey. The French Foreign Minister saying the international community cannot accept that the Syrian regime continues its acts of violence inside and outside its borders. This must be put to an end without delay. Laurent Fabius is most of his European counterparts, though, more measured in their responses.
The response of Turkey is understandable in these circumstances. I want to express our solidarity with Turkey, a valued NATO partner, but we don't want to see an escalation from either side of the border of the incident that has taken place.
Martin Chuloff, how's that reaction by William Hague going to go down with some of the people that you just met inside of Syria?
Well, I think as the year has borne on, that people inside of Syria, certainly amongst the communities who support the rebels, have gotten used to the idea that help isn't coming. They are surprisingly politically aware in many ways. They understand there is an American election this year, and even if Obama was of a mind to take a frontline role on this, that he's not going to do it before the elections take place, and if he's going to do it at all, and they've increasingly come to the conclusion that that's not going to happen. So they are aware that there are difficulties in rushing into this theatre, that this isn't Libya, this is far more complex with far more reaching implications. What they are looking for is something relatively simple in their eyes, and that is a no-fly zone that would take the helicopters and the jets out of the sky, and if that happens, they say they can get the job finished themselves.
Anton Kozlov, your thoughts on a no-fly zone?
Well, I think no-fly zone, we've seen what it led to in Iraq since it was established, in Libya. So, I mean, it's quite clear. Once you establish the no-fly zone, then you're going to have NATO, American, French planes flying over, attacking Syrian targets, and so on and so forth. And we're talking about here a very serious conflict which may deteriorate further and lead to a situation which consequences cannot be foreseen at this moment. So I think we should try to resolve. Assad recently, after the bombing in Aleppo, which was claimed by fundamentalist Sunni groups, clearly stated that he's willing to negotiate, he's willing to talk. Now, the opposition clearly dismissed that statement. Now, I think it is very important to find diplomatic solutions to this situation. Armed solutions will not work.
Kamal Al-Labwani, would you agree that Syria is not the Libyan desert?
Yes, I agree with them that Syria is not Libya, but I think, or I am sorry to say that, if any zoo have bombed by this way, I think all the world will protest and give help to the animals. We are under the bombing since one year. Nobody react with us. I am sorry to say that. Yes, we are different. We haven't any right to protect. We, the international society, haven't any duty to do to us. This is a very, very bad message. We are the same. We are the same people, the same human, and the same regime. I think no difference between Libya and Syria. Just the benefits of the states, which it insists in killing everything for its benefits. I think they push the Syrian people into sectarian conflict. They push the area to sectarian conflict because they need this area is destroyed. This is what I understand from this behavior.
Is it just, though, the Syrian regime that's pushing a sectarian agenda, or is it also some of the backers of the rebellion?
What happened in Iraq and in Lebanon, and when they allowed Hezbollah to take the power in Lebanon, and when they allowed Maliki to control Iraq and allowed the smuggling the weapons through the borders from Iraq and Al-Qaeda to Syria, and when they all of these policies help in this conflict. They need a big conflict between Sunni and Shia in area. It is in behalf of any kind of
Who is they?
to make the,
Who is they?
Yeah. I think the West governments.
The West.
Yeah.
It wants a sectarian conflict.
Sectarian conflict in Middle East, because make Middle East is very weak, and under the control of colonial. They renew the old colonial mind.
Martin Chuloff, is that your analysis?
Yeah,
I don't think it
I
serves
think so.
anyone's. I don't think it serves anyone's interests at all for the region to be in even more turmoil than it is, and I can't see how the West, in particular, are angling for any sort of broader sectarian conflict here. For them to become embroiled in that, which they certainly would be utterly disastrous, and it could potentially lead to something far bigger than the mess we have now. So no, I don't see that as in anyone's interest at all.
Suat Keniklioglu, nonetheless, one of the criticisms that has been leveled against Turkey, which is home to the headquarters of the Syrian National Council, the opposition umbrella group, which has provided logistical support to the Free Syrian Army, as has the West and the Gulf states. The criticism from some quarters has been that its help has been for Sunni rebels. What do you say to that?
It is true that the conflict has acquired, to a certain level, a sectarian quality. But the conflict is not about sects. It's really about power, and it's about this bloody regime's insistence on maintaining in power, despite a large section of its population objecting to it. President Assad has told the Alawites, the Christians, and the others that if he goes, that they will be all killed by the Sunni majority. This is a big lie, and unfortunately, under the current circumstances and the overall psychological air in the Middle East, many do believe in that. Turkey does not have a sectarian agenda. We, on the contrary, object to countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia that it is precisely the sectarian agenda that prevents a normal transition in Syria. This is a political struggle for power and normal governance in Syria. It's not about sects. Turkey does not have a sectarian policy. That said, we acknowledge at the moment the Syrian regime's efforts to transform this current political struggle into a sectarian confrontation has been successful.
All right, now this Thursday, by the way, there were a few dozen anti-war activists who rallied outside the Turkish parliament. Not very many, but according to the opposition daily Hurriyet, 62% of Turks were against the measure that was voted by parliament, allowing the green light, if necessary, for more intervention abroad. And public opinion does seem mostly, but not always, it seems, wary of war.
As Muslims, we're not afraid to fight. We do what it takes to protect our country. Many soldiers died for our country. Thousands of us are ready to sacrifice ourselves to protect Turkey.
We have not solved our problems. Look at the situation in the southeast of Turkey. Look at the state of the economy. And they decided to declare war on Syria? We are already on bad terms with Iraq. This political situation is unsustainable.
Suat Keniklioglu, would you agree that most Turks are against war with Syria?
Indeed, they are. Public opinion is against the government's, by and large, against the government's Syria policy. That said, I think Turkey is a democratic country. People are free to express their opposition to the government's policy. There is also an overlapping with Turkey's Kurdish problem and also the PKK terrorism issue, which has escalated dramatically since Turkey has taken the current position vis-à-vis Syria. There are a lot of people who blame the government for the violence that the PKK has unleashed in Turkey on our Syria policy. But I think, by and large, there's a silent majority in Turkey that believes and cares about its neighboring brothers and sisters in Syria. It understands there is a major tragedy and crisis going on. Turks have been welcoming more than 100,000 Syrian refugees. I think at the essence, the people understand that the policy is right, but equally, Turkish society is against a direct military intervention into Syria.
Martin Chuloff, do you agree that the issue of the Kurdish rebellion, which has increased over the past year, that it's a side issue at this point?
At this point, it is a side issue, but it does have the potential to creep closer to central stage the longer that this draws on. If this conflict does descend into a sectarian abyss, and heaven help us if it does, but we would potentially be looking at the partition of the Syrian state. I mean, the Sunni majority in Syria is by and large behind the uprising. The Alawite minority, which accounts for around 12%, is by and large with the regime for the reasons that our other guests have discussed, and that is that they do fear that there is no future for them in a post-Assad Syria, and that the Sunni majority would kill them all. This is probably wrong, but it is a fear that is being played upon by the regime. If they do retreat to the Latakia Mountains or the coast, and the rest of the country does in some way fall apart, then where would that leave the Kurds in northern Syria? Would that then embolden them to make their play for some kind of state, to line up with the Iraqi Kurds and to create what would be undeniably a significant problem for Turkey? So as this does wear on, we will see the Kurds become far more relevant. At this point, I guess they're gauging their position and testing their boundaries, but not much more.
Not much more. And just one final point on this, because we're almost out of time, Martin Chulov. The world's attention has been on the Syrian city of Aleppo this week as well. Not only did the historic souk there burn over the weekend, the market, but dozens killed in an attack earlier this week. You were mentioning the abyss. How far will it go at this point?
It's, in Arabic, they call it a problem without a solution, and I think that's pretty well right. Neither side will sit down and talk about this. This is a full-blown armed insurrection. This is undeniably a civil war that is getting worse by the day. From midsummer, we did start to see the global jihadists that had been talked about for so long start to turn up, and they did turn up. And I was there in Aleppo on the front lines when they arrived for the first time. They were from Saudi Arabia, Senegal, everywhere, and they're trickling in every day now. They add a dimension to this conflict which is extremely worrying. The rebels, the Syrian rebels, know this. They don't want to give them command and control, but as these guys creep in, as these operations like the explosion we saw in Aleppo happen more and more, I mean, are the lines between genuine resistance and global jihad going to be blurred so much that we don't know what is what anymore?
All right, that's something we will continue to follow. Martin Chulov, I want to thank you. I want to thank the rest of our panel, Suat Kiniklioglu in Ankara, Kamal Labwani for joining us from Sweden, and of course, Anton Kozlov for being with us here in Paris. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.
Watch France 24 live and free on your mobile phone. Anywhere in the world, on almost any cell phone, whatever your provider. Watch France 24 live and in 3 languages. France 24 on your mobile phone. Just visit our website, france24.com, and click on mobile. Select your phone brand, enter your phone number, and you'll receive a free SMS telling you how to install our player. You can watch France 24 live and get the latest world news for free on your mobile.
From heroin and opium to barbiturates, cough syrup and painkillers, 3 out of 4 young people in Punjab are drug addicts.
In our village, everyone uses it. In my group of friends, there's about 30 users, and even those that aren't addicted have at least tried it once or twice.
Over the last few years, the number of private detox centres has exploded. In some districts, pharmacies outnumber grocery stores. Why are drugs such a problem in this state, one of the richest in India? To find out, don't miss Reporters. Today, 9:45 p.m. Paris time on France 24.